Words cannot express how excited I am for fall. And just in case you're new here, the reason why I'm so excited, I mean, it's always been my favorite season, but it's like everybody's favorite season, so like, it's just clearly the best one, you know? But also, I've been living in Florida for the past 6 or 7 years, and I've just been living in Florida for most of my life. So I have fully experienced 6 total falls between going to boarding school for high school and living in Indianapolis for 2 years. But now I live in Colorado, and I am so excited to actually experience fall here. And now I just wanna read fall books, which is great because I've been through a huge reading slump lately. I say lately, it's kind of still happening. I'm like just slowly clawing my way out of it right now. But I think that making this video is really going to help, just because like looking forward to the new books that are going to be on my TBR, being really excited about it. That's just fun. That's a fun thing to do. So I'm gonna talk through the 20 books that are on my autumn TBR. So last season, summer, was the first time that I made a TBR specifically for a season and not just for a month. And I think that that worked out pretty well for me, although I think that I got really bogged down in wanting to finish every book that was on that TBR. And I would almost feel guilty for reading anything that wasn't on the TBR, even if that was just what I was feeling at the time. And I don't want to feel that way this time. So what I've decided is that I'm gonna pick 20 books with the idea in my head that I would love to read 15 of those books, and then whatever else I want. So that's the goal. That's the plan. Fingers crossed it all works out. Anyway, this is my shelf for the autumn TBR. We're gonna go ahead and fill it up now. So first up, we have Other People's Clothes by Calla Hankel. This was sent to me by Anchor Books. This is about 2 girls that are best friends. They're living in Berlin. It seems a little bit like, I don't know, like girls' night out that goes wrong or that results in something unexpected. You'll also notice that I'm going to be trying to prioritize books that have been sent to me that I just like haven't been getting around to. So basically any of the books that have been sent to me that I thought like maybe kind of I was feeling for this season, I added to the list. I think I ended up with like 7 of them, which is good because that I think is at this point like my highest priority of books to like read through and hopefully get that list down, because I'd like to, when a book's sent to me, just like read it right away rather than being like, let me add it to the list and then just not getting around to it. So excited for this one. I'm so excited for this one. Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. So this is the second book in the Banned series, the first being Kings of the Wild, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely love it. I've read it 3 times at this point without having read the sequel, which I do a lot. But I'm excited to finally read Bloody Rose. I've been looking forward to reading it for a long time, and it's actually one of the oldest books on my TBR at this point. I do know a bit about what the second book like follows, like what goes on in it, but I don't think I can really say without spoiling something from the first book. So I will talk about what the first book's about so you kind of get an idea. But it's basically in this fantasy world. It is very like stereotypical fantasy world, except it's hilarious. Like it's written so funny. So the first book follows this band of mercenaries that have been out of the game for a long time, and then they come back together for like one last adventure. It's hilarious. One of my favorite book characters ever is in that book. His name's Moog, if you've read it. I love him so much. But this book doesn't follow that group. It follows somebody that was in the first book. And I don't actually even know like fully what their adventure is. But then there's also the Wild, which is like this crazy forested area that has like tons of different very dangerous things, both in the sky and on the ground. And that's what the first group has to go through. I don't know if we're gonna go back into the wild this time, but I kind of hope so. Yeah, oh, I have such great memories of reading that book. Then we have Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This feels like I should be reading it in autumn. I barely know what it's about. I think it's about like 2 like villains. Yeah, Victor and Eli, they're college roommates, or they were college roommates. It describes them as being brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys who recognize the same sharpness and ambition in each other. And then in their senior year, a shared research interest in adrenaline, near-death experiences, and seemingly supernatural events reveals an intriguing possibility that under the right conditions, someone could develop extraordinary abilities. I've never read any V.E. Schwab at all, I don't think, but obviously a very famous author, so I'm excited to finally read one. Okay. This book. I've been reading this book for a really long time. I would like to actually finish it. I often do this, especially with nonfictions, because I just like go through phases where I really want to read nonfiction and then where I really don't feel like it. And even when I do really feel like it, I tend to read just a little bit every day. I don't read it like I do other fiction books. But this is a book about mushrooms. I actually don't have long left in it because there is so much bibliography and notes. Yeah, it's actually only this long. So you can see where my bookmark is and where the end of the book is. So really, like, I should have finished this already. And it's a good book. Like, it's just a book about mushrooms. It's for my Ted Lasso season 2 video. Yes, I am still planning on making that video. But I feel like fall is a good time for mushrooms. Then I've got Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. So this is the first book of a series that I've seen around a lot and I've been really wanting to pick up but just hadn't yet. I just got this book while I was in Idaho for my friend's bachelorette party. Everyone in my family has killed someone. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it is the truth. Some of us are good, others are bad, and some just unfortunate. Have I killed someone? Yes, I have. Who was it? Let's get started. Oh my gosh, I love this. I'm so excited now. Next up, we have Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which is a part of the Realm of the Elderling. So I feel like I've said this a million times at this point. I'm in a read along type thing with that Leanne from Literary Diversions is doing, reading through all of the books in the Realm of the Elderling. So I'm currently reading Ship of Magic. I'm absolutely loving it. Every book except for maybe like the first book of the ones that I've read of Robin Hobb's, I've absolutely loved. And the first book I still liked, I just didn't get to where like I feel about it now. I have no idea what this one's gonna be about, obviously. But as far as like the trilogy as a whole, it's about these like ships that can literally come alive, and basically like you can kind of talk to them, but also it's like this generational thing where they most like the people that are in the family that originally purchased them. There's a lot of like rules around this like system and how it works, but so far very good, and I'm really excited for what I assume are going to be like really fun high sea adventures, because even what I've gotten so far from Ship of Magic, I've absolutely loved it. I really like the characters, what it's doing to set things up. I'm so excited to see where it goes. It feels so adventurous. Absolutely loving it. But Mad Ship is going to be, the live show for it is going to be, I think, the end of November, if I'm remembering correctly. So there's only one of these books that is going to be on this TBR. Also, I'm so excited because I found this one at the used bookstore in the mass market paperback version, and I love these so much. There's something about reading one of these like floppy, tiny little books that I absolutely love. It makes you feel like you're reading so fast because the pages are so like short. And also there's just something like very nostalgic about them that I absolutely live for. Just so you get an idea of like the comparison between the two different types. So far I've been reading all of them in like this style of book. So I'm very excited to read it in this style. I feel like that's a very book nerdy thing to care about. Do you have a favorite as far as like how you consume your books when they are in physical form? Like, do you have a favorite size? Because this is mine. Okay, then this is a little ambitious, but I think it's time. It's A Little Life by Hani Yanagihara. Am I ready? Emotionally? I was gonna say physically, but like, let's be real. I just need to be ready emotionally. This book, all I know is that it's sad because everybody talks about how sad it is. I think it's set in New York. I think it follows a group of people. There's one thing that I think I know about it that I think is probably a spoiler because I'd never heard it before, but somebody put it in the thumbnail of their video and I'm still mad about it. I saw it like a year ago. I've been hoping that I would forget, and I have not forgotten. But I just don't want to wait any longer hoping that I'm going to forget it. So I think it's finally time that I read this one. And I don't know if it's because of its setting in New York or because it's sad, but for some reason that just seems like a good, autumn seems like a good atmosphere to read a book like this in. Yeah, that makes sense. I know everybody in the entire world of BookTube has made a video reading this book, but if you would like to see me read it, let me know. I will make a video about it as well, just to add to the pile of others. Next up, we have kind of a weird one for me, Orange by Ichigo Takano, who did both the story and the art for it. So this is a manga novel, the first of a series, and I think that I saw, what was her channel name? Something book corner but she took a break for a long time. I don't know if she's back now. She was the one that did The Wheel initially. Oh, it's killing me that I can't remember her name. But she talked about this in one video forever ago, and it had been on my wish list for so long. And then I finally just decided to get it. I remember being in like middle school and absolutely loving manga and reading as many as I could, but like we just had a Borders in my mall and you were just beholden to whatever volumes they had. I mean, looking back, I'm sure they could have ordered specific volumes for me, but I didn't know that, so I never asked. So I had started, I think, a few different series and never finished, but I absolutely loved them, and especially like the high school setting of it. And it just felt very nostalgic to go back to that. And since it's like a school-timey book, I feel like this is the right time of year to read it. It's like this friend group, and one of the like main character, the girl that you're following, gets a letter from her future self saying like what is going to happen that day, that there's going to be a new kid in school, and there is, and what else is going to happen, like what she should do and everything. And basically she's trying to help herself out. Her future self is trying to help out her past self by giving her these like heads up of things to do to make sure that she does, so that things work out better than they did in like the current timeline, I guess. Next up, we have Ways and Means by Daniel Lefertz. This book was sent to me by Overlook Publishing. It's about Alistair, who is going to New York. Once again, I like reading New York books, I think, in fall. He's hoping to escape his Rust Belt poverty and give his mother a better life by pursuing a career in high finance. And then this takes place during the spring of 2016, and since I know that it deals with politics a bit, we can all assume that that is going to play a part. Actually, this kind of reminds me of another book I was considering. Maybe I will put it in here. I feel like it'd kind of be fun to read this at the same time. This is Groundskeeping by Lee Cole, which also takes place during the run-up to the 2016 election, and I believe it also follows a queer protagonist. Okay, I might have 21 books on my TBR because I feel like it'd be nice to read both of these. They really remind me of each other, the synopsis. And I was honestly so close to adding this to the TBR, and then I just ended up not last second. And this was also sent to me by Knopf Publishing. Another one sent to me. We're really hitting that portion of the stack here. This was from Vintage Publishing, and it's called The Quiet Tenant by Clemens McCallan. I know I've seen the name before, and actually I've seen this book out on like displays since it was sent to me, so that's kind of exciting. But this one's a thriller. It follows Aidan Thomas, a recent widower raising his 13-year-old daughter Cecilia, and he's a beloved figure in his small upstate New York town. We're just going to New York. Like, I feel like at this point I need to plan a trip to New York. The kind of neighbor who always lends a hand and has a good word for everyone. Aidan also has a dark secret. He's a kidnapper and a serial killer. He's murdered 8 women, and there's a 9th marked for dead. So her name is Rachel, and she's been imprisoned for 5 years in his backyard shed. But then it turns out that he and his daughter need to move, so he has to like bring Rachel with, and he doesn't think that she's going to escape because he thinks that like she's basically just been trapped for so long, and she's probably so brainwashed at this point that she'll just stay. So I'm very curious to see how this one's gonna go, because it seems like it's from the perspective of like the murderer. So I actually have like no idea what to expect. Next up, we have Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray. This book is basically about Dorian Gray, who exchanges his like soul for being like young and beautiful forever. I don't really know anything more about it than that. I feel like it's one of those books that's referenced a lot, obviously a classic, but I'm looking forward to reading it, and I actually feel like this is the perfect time of year to read it, so I'm really pleased that this one came up on TBR Spin for the month of September. Another book that was sent to me by Knopf is Bright Eye Burn by Molly Aitken. So this I think has like witchy vibes, which is why I chose it for this. Also, it was just sent to me. A fierce, electrifying novel of power, patriarchy, and sexuality inspired by the true story of the first woman in Ireland to be condemned as a witch. So this book follows Alice. I think we get a bit of her like upbringing, but also more of her adult life. So she gets married. I think she is marrying her 4th husband in the book, but her first 3 husbands have died, which I'm assuming is going to be the reason why she's being like condemned as a witch. Also, I love the cover. Let's actually go ahead and talk about the rest of the books that I have that I've gotten from publishers, because I feel like I'm on a roll with those now. So I have Our Kindred Creatures, How Americans Came to Feel the Way They Do About Animals by Bill Wasick and Monica Murphy. And this was gifted to me also by Knopf Publishing. So this book is basically about why we feel about animals the way that we do. I assume that there's going to be a lot about like pets specifically, but I also I'm hoping there's going to be discussion about like the animals that didn't end up being domesticated and like why that is. But honestly, I don't fully know. Ooh, P.T. Barnum is mentioned in the synopsis though. I'm very curious about this one. Okay, next book sent to me by a publisher. So this one is not out yet. It comes out in October. This is called Non-Disclosure by Renee D. Bondi. And this was sent to me by Second Story Press. I really liked the sound of the synopsis, but I will say that this is one of those books that I would recommend looking up triggers for if you're thinking about reading it. Because this is about a young girl that suffers abuse, specifically through the church. And she doesn't tell anyone for a long time because she like really sees herself as being this good girl and like she just like wanting to have that persona. And then later when she's an adult, she finds out that a lot of other people went through the same thing by the same man. And so she starts kind of contextualizing what she went through in a different light. I mean, it does seem like she understood that she had been abused, at least based off the little bit that we get in the synopsis. But I think she didn't realize quite how much it impacted her life until like hearing the stories of others. And then also there is mention of how the HIV/AIDS epidemic is going on at the same time as this book is set. So I'm very curious about this one. It's very short for how heavy the subject matter is. And I feel like it's gonna be a good book for a very dark day. And then lastly, we have a book that I actually don't know what it's about at all. It's Mina's Matchbox by Yoko Ogawa, which was sent to me by Pantheon Publishing. So I've read 2 Yoko Ogawa books at this point, The Memory Police and The Housekeeper and the Professor. I've really liked both of them. She has a very unique writing style, or I at least think that it feels very unique like in the US, because she does write in Japanese, which actually leads me to want to look up who the translator is. Oh, Stephen Snyder again. So I believe he also translated The Housekeeper and the Professor and The Memory Police. So I'm very much looking forward to it because of how much I've liked her other books. Okay, so this book is about a 12-year-old girl who leaves Tokyo, where she's grown up with her mom, and goes to live with her aunt's family. Her aunt lives in this like mansion with her husband, who is, I believe, German and owns, he's the president of a soft drink company. So they're very wealthy. And then they also have their daughter Mina, who I'm assuming is Mina here. And then they also have a small pygmy hippopotamus that lives at their place. So it's basically Tomoko, the 12-year-old that is going to live with her aunt's family. It's her experience being there, learning about them, and I think just like learning a lot of new things in general. Seems like it might be a little bit of a coming of age story, but we'll see. Okay, we're almost there. The last 5 books are books I'm going to do together in a video. So I'm going to talk through them really quickly because I have already talked about the synopsis of them before in this video, where I went and got, like, I found out what colors I was, like, what season are you? It turns out I'm in autumn, which is great because I was already, those were like all my clothes anyway. And I ended up buying a bunch of books that fit the autumn color palette. And I asked in that video if I should do a follow-up video where I read all the books that I purchased from that and also wore the colors I'm supposed to wear. By supposed to, I mean just like that are supposedly like the most flattering on me. So these are the 5 books that I ended up getting in that video. And I'm planning on doing the video of reading all of them within autumn because I feel like that just makes the most sense. So we have Octavia E. Butler's Parable of the Sower, which will be my first book by her that I'll have read, so I'm excited about that. I think this is also the first book of a series, but basically this is about climate change that has led to a crisis in the early 2020s. But I think there's like a little bit of magical realism in this because Lauren, our like main protagonist, she's 15 years old, but I think that she is able to like touch people or maybe just be around people, and she has like a very strong sensitivity to feeling others' emotions. They call it in this hyper empathy. So it might, in my head, it was like a little bit magic based, but it might not be. Then I've got The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chen. So this is about Frida, who's a mother, and I think she's like struggling a little bit, and she's a candidate for a big brother-like institution that measures the success or failure of a mother's devotion. So she basically has to prove that she can be a good mother in order to keep her daughter Harriet. I've heard a lot of great things about this one, and also I'm obsessed with the cover. Then we have A Quantum Love Story by Mike Chen. So this is about 2 people that are like going through the same time loop. So So we have Mariana, who gets stopped by this man, Carter, who says that he knows who she is and like basically knows what she's going through because she's mourning the loss of her best friend, and that he needs her to remember everything that he's saying because time is about to loop. And so they're in this time loop. I'm assuming they fall in love because of the name of it. But then at some point, Carter starts losing his memory of what's happening with the time loop. So it's almost like their stories are going like this, it feels like, which sounds very fascinating. Then we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I feel like this book needs no introduction. We've heard about it a million times at this point. This is a cozy fantasy. It's about these two orcish women. I think they're orc. Actually, maybe it's an orc and a tiefling, and they own a coffee shop, but they used to do adventures. Oh my gosh, I just realized that Nicholas Eames is blurbed on the back. I feel like I never see him blurb anything. He probably does, I'm just terrible at like looking at those. But yeah, I'm excited about this one. I really like playing D&D. This feels like it's going to be very like nostalgic D&D feeling, so I'm looking forward to it. And then lastly, we have A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. So Sam is our main character. She goes to visit her mom in North Carolina because her brother had told her that his words were "mom seems off." And then when she gets there, she's like excited about visiting her mom, but then everything seems a little bit weird. The house seems weird, and her mom seems off. And it's a Southern Gothic, specifically this one. So these are officially the books for my fall TBR. There's 21 of them because I ended up adding one to it. But I'm excited to get started. I'm excited that this time of year is finally basically here. Technically, as I'm filming this, we still have a week left till the first day of fall, but weather-wise, we're getting there. I'd love to know what your favorite books from summer were, what your favorite reads were. They don't necessarily have to be summer feeling, but just like books you read in the summer. And then also which books you're most looking forward to reading in the fall. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.